Uncanny Valley, Chapter 6. The Butcher, the Baker, the Candlestick Maker. The dawn was weak, its light filtering through the trees, hesitant and pale. Orson Glass gripped the wheel of his car, his knuckles white against the leather. The town of Uncanny Valley shrank in his rearview mirror, the outline of its rooftops dissolving into mist. He did not glance back. The road ahead twisted through the hills, its asphalt slick from the morning damp. The further he drove, the more his pulse began to slow, the tension in his chest loosening like a knot unwinding. This time, he told himself, he was going to make it. No more butcher shops with missing bodies. No more grocery store whispers. No more mannequins posing as people in the pews. No more clocks that ticked only when he wasn't looking. No more. The gas needle hovered just above empty. He had been driving for hours, longer than he should have been able to without reaching another town, another highway, another sign of life beyond Uncanny Valley. But the world outside his windshield was nothing but trees and mist and an unbroken stretch of forgotten road. It wasn't until the gaslight blinked on that the first building appeared. A station. Small, old-fashioned, the kind that still had a single attendant behind the counter and shelves stocked with outdated snacks. Its neon sign flickered weakly, buzzing in the hush of the morning. Orson pulled up to the pump, cut the engine, and stepped out into the cold air. The silence pressed against his ears. No birds, no wind, just the low hum of the fluorescent lights above the pumps. He filled the tank, watching the numbers climb, grounding himself in something tangible, something real. Reality. That was all that mattered now. He replaced the nozzle, shut the gas cap, and headed inside. The bell above the door jingled as he stepped in. The store smelled of dust and stale coffee. Rows of chips and candy bars lined the shelves, their colors dulled by time. A small refrigerator hummed in the back, filled with soda bottles and cartons of milk. He ignored them. Instead, he grabbed a bag of chips and a candy bar, something simple, something normal. He hadn't eaten all day. At the register, the attendant stood waiting, a man, thin and pale, his uniform crisp and unassuming. His expression was blankly polite, the kind of neutrality that small-town clerks seemed to master. Orson set his items on the counter, reaching into his wallet. The man smiled. "You made good time, Orson. I didn't expect you for another hour." Orson's stomach plummeted. He froze, breath catching sharp in his throat as his gaze locked onto the man's. A slow, creeping horror curled through his veins as his mind caught up with the reality around him. His heartbeat roared in his ears as he turned, the glass doors of the station, and beyond them, the town. The mist had thinned, revealing the quiet, waiting streets of Uncanny Valley. He had never left. Orson staggered back, his hands gripping the edge of the counter as the room tilted. No. He had driven for hours, he had left, The clerk's smile remained unchanged. His head tilted slightly, almost expectant. "Something wrong, Orson?" Orson stumbled backward. The door, the car, his breath came short, sharp, fast. He shoved the candy bar off the counter, sprinting for the exit, his fingers clawing at the handle. The town stretched before him, the roads winding endlessly into themselves. A loop, a trap, and deep within the quiet of Uncanny Valley, something was watching. The sun hung low in the sky, its weak light filtering through the mist, casting the town in pale gold. Orson Glass drove in silence, his grip tight on the wheel, his mind unraveling. The town had folded around him like a living thing, looping back on itself, refusing to let him go. He needed a plan. Glass Manor loomed ahead, its Queen Anne silhouette standing stark against the dull afternoon. The house was waiting. It always was. Orson pulled into the driveway and killed the engine. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth. His boots thudded against the wooden steps. Inside, the house greeted him with its familiar hush. The grandfather clock stood frozen in the hall, the minute hand still at 11:56. He ignored it. Upstairs, the bathroom was cold, Orson turned the faucet, letting the water run, watching it as it spiraled into the porcelain sink. He leaned forward, cupping the icy water in his hands, splashing it over his face. Deep breath, steady. In, out. He braced himself against the counter, eyes shut, letting the cold bite into his skin. A sound. A whisper of movement behind him. Orson's eyes snapped open, locking onto his reflection. The breath caught in his throat. A hole, black and gaping in the wall behind him near the baseboard, and moving through it, the cat. Its sleek black body slipped soundlessly from the void with unnatural grace. Orson twisted around. Nothing. The wall was solid, whole. But the cat was still there, its golden eyes watching him. His pulse hammered. The cat flicked its tail, then turned, padding out of the bathroom without a sound. Orson swallowed hard. The cat had led him before. It was leading him now. He followed. The air grew heavier with each step. The cat led him downward, its tail flicking in slow, deliberate movements. The wooden stairs groaned beneath his weight. The basement was cold, damp, the scent of old wood and dust curling in the air. Orson froze. The walls, they moved. Faces pressed against the stone like drowned bodies beneath ice, their features contorted in frozen screams. Hundreds of them, their mouths were open, but no sound came. Their eyes, where there were eyes, held only empty horror. Orson's breath shuddered out of him, his stomach clenched as he scanned the faces. And then he saw her, Margaret, his wife, dead for years. Her face was half submerged in the wall, her mouth slightly parted, her dark hair tangled around her hollowed features. His chest tightened. Margaret. She was here. Orson stepped forward, his hand trembling as he reached for her. A sharp hiss snapped through the silence. The cat. Its fur bristled, its eyes narrowed, its body poised in warning. Orson's fingers hovered just inches from Margaret's face. The wall seemed to pulse. The cat hissed again, louder, tail lashing. Orson yanked his hand back. A moment passed. Then, beside the cat, tucked between two old boxes, half buried beneath layers of dust, he spotted it. A journal. Orson's breath steadied. He knelt, brushing off the grime, lifting the book into his hands. The leather was cracked with age, the spine fragile. Slowly he rose. Margaret's face was still there, still silent, still watching. He forced himself to turn away. The cat followed him upstairs. The weight of the past settled in his hands as he sat in the dim light of his study. The book smelled of mildew and old paper, the pages brittle beneath his fingers. His pulse quickened as he read the first entry. August 4th, 1923. They came back, Tommy, Eddie, Joey, Sam. Everyone is happy. But they aren't the same. Something is wrong with their eyes. Something is wrong with their voices. Something is wrong. Orson's breath hitched. The journal continued. More people vanished. More reappeared. And the writer, who never signed his name, knew. He knew they weren't the same. He knew something else had come back in their skin. Decades passed. The town shifted. Then, in 1953, I'm the only sane one left. I have a plan to escape. I will not be like the others. I will not let them take me. If I fail, I will try again. If I fail again, I will kill it. I will go back into the mine. The thing beneath the church, the thing that waits. It started here. It must end here. The words ended. Orson flipped through the final pages. They were blank. His hands were shaking. The mine, the church, the bell. It was all connected. The town had been feeding something for years. And now it was his turn. The air in his bedroom was heavy and thick with the memories of the past. Orson's breath came slow, measured as he knelt beside his bed, hands rummaging through his bag. His fingers found cold steel. He pulled the snub-nosed revolver free. The metal was familiar, its weight sinking into his palm like an old memory. The cylinder swung open with a smooth click. Orson reached for the box of ammunition, his fingers steady as he fed the first bullet into the chamber. One bullet. Margaret's laughter echoed in his ears, a distant sound from a life he barely remembered. Their wedding day. The way her eyes crinkled when she smiled, the way her fingers felt laced with his. 2 bullets. I'm pregnant, Orson. Her voice was light, breathless, full of something fragile and hopeful. He had held her close, whispered against her hair, promised her everything. 3 bullets. The hospital. Cold white walls, the sterile scent of antiseptic. We lost it. Her voice had been small. So small. He had held her that night, his arms wrapped tight around her as she sobbed into his chest, her body shaking, breaking. 4 bullets. The months that followed, the quiet, the distance, Margaret withdrawing into herself, slipping further and further away. He had tried, God, he had tried. But the light in her eyes had died long before her body followed. 5 and 6. The gun had been on the nightstand. Margaret had been in the bathtub. The water had been red. Orson exhaled, closing the cylinder with a quiet snap. He gripped the revolver tightly and stood. He had spent years trying to outrun ghosts, and now they found him. And he was done running. The streets of Uncanny Valley stretched before him, waiting. The town was quiet, as it always was. Orson walked with purpose, the revolver heavy beneath his coat. The butcher's shop loomed to his right, its pristine glass display reflecting the pale afternoon light. Inside, Foster, the butcher, stood behind the counter, his thick hands resting against the polished surface. His head lifted as Orson passed, his lips stretching into a slow, knowing smile. He stepped away from the counter and followed. Further down the grocery store, the grocer stood outside, hands clasped in front of him, his face expressionless. His dull eyes tracked Orson's every step. Then he, too, fell into step behind him. At Reed & Sons Hardware, the shopkeeper emerged from the shadows of the doorway. His face had changed again, subtly, wrong. His hands, his scars, his eyes. He followed. The library. The librarian stood in the arched entrance, her smile thin, polite, and expectant. She did not speak. She only followed. The town gathered behind him, silent and waiting. And now he saw them clearly. The cords, thick, fleshy things that extended from the back of their necks, pulsing, undulating, alive. They slithered into unseen spaces, disappearing into the cracks of buildings, the depths of the alleyways, the deep places where the town breathed. The police joined the procession, their hands resting on their belts, their eyes empty, their cords writhed. The entire town followed him now. Orson kept walking. Up ahead, the church waited. The bell tower loomed above, its silhouette jagged against the pale sky. The wind did not stir. The town did not move. Orson stopped at the threshold, the church doors yawning before him like an open mouth. Behind him, the people of Uncanny Valley stood still, watching, their bodies eerily patient, waiting. His hand tightened around the revolver. Orson exhaled and stepped forward. Tick.